Okay, so let's go over pros and cons then for holding, buy and hold long term on Bitcoin.
Okay.
Pro number one is lower taxes. So you're not going to create as many taxable events, trades, whatever, if you're buying and holding for the long term. Now, you had mentioned something also, Dad, that needs to be addressed. If you are going to do some profit taking, you would want to do it inside of an investment vehicle or an account that has tax free benefits, like a Roth IRA
Right.
or a Roth 401k, something of that nature. An HSA would be another place, but you can't really take profits out of that one without penalties. That's the other thing. If you want to take money out and put it somewhere, or spend and live off of it, you
Right.
have to either be retirement age in those accounts or to use it. But it is another place where you could do some trading. But then the downside to that, which we'll get into later, is that you might erode um
Capital.
your your capital. Okay, so lower taxes for buy and hold is a pro. Lower transaction fees because you're not trading, right? You're buying and holding for a long time. Little worry about much market fluctuations. Like when you get into long-term buy and hold, you're realizing the prices are going to be volatile at times. They're going to go up, they're going to come down, but I'm buying this for 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whatever. And so it really, that mindset helps you ride out market fluctuations. And everybody else can be moaning like, oh my gosh, I'm so down right now on my thing. And you're like, yeah, I'm down compared to what I was a week ago, a month ago, but compared to where I started from, I'm in great shape. Right. So every time Bitcoin takes a big hit, I get all my naysayer friends that know I'm into Bitcoin. They're all, dude, you must be hurting, right? I'm like, well, no, not really. Cause like the
Is it
initial
down?
money
I
that I
didn't
put
even
into
know. You
Bitcoin,
don't look.
yeah,
I didn't even know it's down.
yeah, it was up 20 times, before this event happened, but now it's still up 10 times from what I put into it. So it's not the end of the world. And I know it will bounce back. So anyways, the other thing, like you were just mentioning, that's simplicity. Like you don't have to worry about this. Like buying and holding and getting it to a point where you're not going to touch it till you live off of it makes things so much more simple. And I think just overall you have a lot higher long-term growth potential when you're buying and holding because you're leveraging or you're using time in the market instead of trying to time the market, right?
Yeah.
And
It's much.
that's opposed to trading, but as opposed to like a taking, which I think was where she was going, was Nancy want to know, should I buy and hold forever until I live off of it, or should I take profit at certain points of time? And so you will still have longer or higher growth in your portfolio, in your investments over time if you buy and hold until you actually go to live off of it, because then you're not taking money out of it, right? So the downside, some of the cons, you know what, if you don't have that long-term mentality, possible the market fluctuations can play with you emotionally, you know what I'm saying, over a long period of time. I don't know, I can only speak from my own experience, and honestly, I think once you get years in and you see the kind of growth that you've been having, I think it powers you through
Yeah.
the emotional ups and
And
downs
the
of it. You're just like,
desire
no,
to
this is working.
cash
Like
in.
this is working.
Yeah.
Like I'm sticking with this because I can see what it did in 5 years. So what's it going to do for me in 10 years or 20 years?
Yeah.
And I think that ammunition or that strength builds up for you to help you get through emotional things. But
Yeah.
I'm
And
trying to
that
find
chart
some
that you
some
did
legit,
last week, the bar chart that showed
yeah,
and $500 invested on January 1st of
2020.
2020, and then what it's worth in August of 2025. I mean,
Yeah.
long term, it's a clear winner. But in the meantime, Bitcoin has been all over the place. It goes way up, way down, whatever. And,
It's been up to 124
right.
over that period. It's been down to 3,000 over that period.
Yeah.
And then it went up to from 3,000, it went as high as 69,000 and it dropped back down to 15 again. So yeah, you are going to see
And I'm
a roller
thinking
coaster ride.
with all of the buying pressure that's on it these days, there's like 10% of Bitcoin now held by institutions, governments, or
Mhm.
corporations. And so that's putting pressure on it because they're not turning that over as quickly as individuals are,
And traditionally they don't and won't.
they won't.
So if tradition holds, they'll be holding on to that for a long time.
Exactly. So, it's like that's limits supply. And with the more supply is limited, the more people are willing to pay for it. And so the
Yeah.
price goes up. The demand drives the
Yeah.
price up. And
Yep.
so it's just, Econ 101 that uh,
Hmm.
supply and demand.
Totally. So, and then the other thing I would say, you may feel like, I think this can be a con to the buy and hold long term. You may also feel that maybe you're missing out on opportunities, right? You might say, well, maybe I should be playing this game.
Yeah.
So you might have to deal with those kind of emotions. Honestly, I can't think of a lot of other ones because honestly, when you think of like, well, what if it has a massive drop in value? Well, it can, those are completely independent of your strategy, right? You
Right.
have to deal with
Yes.
problems like that on either strategy. So I don't think that
Yeah.
plays into
Well,
it, though I've heard people say that.
you
So,
shouldn't be investing money that you need to live on, because then you do have an additional pressure to go ahead and take profits that you
yeah,
don't have
that's
if
a good
it's
point.
investment
Yeah.
money. And you're just sitting on that nest egg. It's not going
Hmm.
anywhere, and let it grow. Don't pay attention to
Right.
it, but if you need it to live on, it should not be invested in the first place. Maybe a high yield savings account or something.
That's going to cause you stress. Like you said, it's going to cause you to make emotional decisions, like unsound decisions, like unsafe decisions. So, yeah, you don't want to put that pressure on you.
Yeah.
So let's talk the flip side in a non-trading approach, but a profit-taking approach to where you have like a defined exit strategy. So say instead of saying I'm going to hold this, buy and hold it till I can actually live off of it, and then take just what I need to live off of it 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. Now you're saying I'm going to invest in it on a regular basis and I'm going to take out when Bitcoin hits 200K, I'm going to take out 10%. When Bitcoin hits K, I'm going to take out 10%. When Bitcoin hits a million, I'm going to take out 10%. So you're taking out like a regular profit out of it on a regular basis, on a predefined basis. I'm assuming this is what you were asking, Nancy. If not, reply in the comments and I can go over some more answers in the First Step Bitcoin community. I want to make sure I answer this good for you, but I'm
And
I'm thinking this is
I've
most
got
likely
limit
what she meant.
orders set up. You mentioned that 200,000. I've got limit orders set up to sell a certain amount of shares of the ETF when it hits 200,000. Bitcoin hits 200,000. I figured it'd be about 110 to 115,000, somewhere in that, or $115 for the IBIT
Hmm.
ETF. So when it hits, and I can't remember, I think it's like $112.50, then I'm selling a certain number of shares.
Gotcha. So you are doing, I think, what Nancy's asking about here. You have an exit strategy in place that you're going to cash out on some of those shares.
A certain amount.
So nice. And why are you doing that? I think it'd be good for her to know, or anybody else who's interested. What was your thinking behind doing this?
Yeah,
By
the reason I set that up was it's my RMD for the account. And so I'm going to,
So you're required, for those who don't know, that's the required minimum distribution. So in a retirement account, you have to take money out of these accounts so the government can tax you on it. If it's not a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, you're going to have an RMD, and it means you have to take out a minimum amount each year, right? So you can take it out each month or be forced to take it out at the end of the year. They'll take it out for you, right,
right.
Dad?
Yeah, they do. If
Okay.
you don't tell them to take it out December 31st, they take it out. So it's automatic. But,
So
and
you're doing this as part of your RMD strategy then.
yeah, it's my RMD that I have to take out. Otherwise, I wouldn't
Okay.
sell it. And I'm only taking out the
Okay.
RMD. So, the beginning of the year, it looked very optimistic that we might hit 200,000 this year. And so that's why I picked 200,000. But as
Gotcha.
we get closer to the end of the year, maybe I'm going to narrow that down to 150,000, or I don't know, maybe even the neighborhood that it's in right now. I'll take it,
Right.
whenever. But at the beginning of the year, they always notify your RMD because they also determine that on December 31st.
For the
So
next year.
yeah, so in January, I just said, okay, well, let's see. I think it's going to hit 200,000 this year. So I'm just going to put a limit order in ahead of time, and then I don't have to think about it ever again. And, but I don't I'm not sure at this point it's really going to hit 200,000. I doubt it. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, later in the year, maybe I'll bring that down to something that's more achievable, not just aspirational.
Yeah. So some of the pros I had for the profit taking version, for taking or having a defined exit strategy where you're going to take out X percent or X amount when the price hits certain things. I think this is what Nancy's talking about. I think one of the pros is you get emotional victories from the profit taking. So like it's a win. Like it hits there, you take the money out. That's awesome, right? It does open up cash for other opportunities. So if you have other opportunities, and I think it's completely possible that there might be some opportunities that are going to totally outperform Bitcoin. I just think it's going to be really hard to determine what those opportunities are. Will they exist? Will we look back 40 years from now and see that over this time period, over this 10 years, this asset outperformed Bitcoin? I do think that's going to happen. I think we'll look at that. But I think in general, we'll go, I never would have thought of that, putting money into that until I heard that it had blew up,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I think that's the other thing. Three, it has the potential, you have the potential from profiting from volatile markets if you make it right. So you can, actually what I mean by there, say it does take a run up to 200K, Dad, and you have that trade that automatically takes out some profit. Let's say you take out, let's say you have a whole Bitcoin in there and you take out 20 per, or yeah, like say like 20%. So you take out 40K. So it runs up to
Well, no, you
200.
take out, it's about 5% where I am age
Right,
wise.
right. I'm just
Yeah, no,
throwing a number
okay,
out
just
there
hypothetical.
for
Okay.
example. But
Yeah, maybe you're
let's say
trying to get
10.
your
10's
initial
a little more
investment.
round than 5 or 20. So let's
Yeah,
say 10.
yeah.
Say 10. You have a whole
Okay.
Bitcoin, and you have an order set that when it hits 200,000, you're going to cash out 10% of that, right? You're going to sell zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. So it hits 200K, you sell it, you have $20,000 cash from that transaction. And let's say that by good fortune for you, good luck, it hits that amount, then there's a big sell off and it drops back down to 150K, or let's say 100K. Like it takes a big 50% drop, which is not
Right.
unheard of. We've seen
Yeah,
things like that before.
sure.
And so it drops back down to 100, and now you've got this 20K, and you're like, oh, you know what? I believe in Bitcoin. I believe that this 100K is just a temporary thing. Bitcoin has done this many times in the past where it takes a big drop after a big gain. So I'm going to put it back in. So now you buy zero point 0.2 Bitcoin, and over the next couple years, it works its way up to 200K past again. And now you don't just have, one Bitcoin when it hits 200K the next time. Now you have 1.1 Bitcoin, right? You have bought some extra. So you do have potential for opportunities like that. And you do have the flexibility. The last pro that I came across was you have the flexibility to pursue more opportunities, right? But there's some downsides. And I think for every one of these on the cons is almost the flip side of what I just said, right? You get emotional victories when you take profit, but I think you're going to have to deal with emotional baggage, dead weight as well, because you're going to see it race up to 200,000 sometimes. You're going to cash out. And then because this has happened in the past
Yeah.
where it doubles in price multiple times over. So now it races up to 400K and you're going, dang,
Why didn't I
I should
take
have
my
left it in
RMD
because
then?
now
Yeah,
I would have had 40K instead of
right.
20K, right?
Yeah.
So there's the flip side to that I think you're going to have to deal with too emotionally. You're going to ask these what if questions of yourself, right? Here's the other thing. So one of them was it opens up cash for other opportunities. And here's like the biggest question for me. What other opportunities are going to be better than Bitcoin over the next 4 decades? I do think there will be some. I don't think anybody's talking about them right now. The ones that are going to outperform Bitcoin at some point over some period, maybe over a 5-year period or a 10-year period or a 20-year period over the next 40 years, I think it's going to happen. I don't think we have any idea what that asset is going to be. And you're going to have some people who bought into it for whatever reason, dumb luck, they really believed in it, they could see the potential, whatever, but they're going to look like geniuses down the road. But everybody else is going to be, if they're honest with themselves, they're going to be saying, man, I never even knew about that stuff until I heard that it blew
Dumb
up.
luck. Yeah.
Yeah, dumb
I
luck.
mean, for all
So
we know, Michael Saylor just bought Bitcoin on dumb luck. And,
yeah.
you know, look
And
where he is.
there's a comment on this on one of the videos in First Step Bitcoin where they're saying, well, you need to take profit on a regular basis. And and I'm like, but where do you put it?
Yeah.
Do you hold it in cash?
Yeah.
What other asset are you going to take it from Bitcoin that you know of right now? I wouldn't take out my bit. Like I've put about the same amount of money into my investments into index funds as I have put into Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin is 90% of my wealth.
Yeah.
I don't readjust it. I let it run. Other people were saying, I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. Well, you've got to readjust it. I'm all, no, you don't. You
Yeah.
let your winners run. And they're
Yeah.
all, well, that's not what the smart money managers say. I'm all, it is what the smart money managers say.
Yeah.
Are there some very pro balance it out, diversify guys? Yeah. Guys like Ray Dalio, they are trying to preserve a huge amount of money, right? But other guys are in it for the long-term growth, right? And they don't care. He's okay. When I say he's trying to preserve that long-term value, he's also trying to preserve it over the short term. He's managing money for his clients that they don't want to see it. They're relying on it. And they don't want to see it dip down. They don't want to see its value go from 100K down to 100K. So he's not going to put a lot in Bitcoin because he can't afford to do that and have these people freak out and panic because they want to be able to live off of this money. And now they have half of what they did in a period where they have to live off of it, right? So this messes with the system. So that is why he diversifies. But when you have professional investors, successful entrepreneurs that have done well with their companies, they are putting all their eggs in one basket and watching that basket very closely, which is a quote from Warren Buffett. Charlie Munger is another guy in this. They will tell the average investor, buy an index fund, diversify, right? But for them, they themselves, they put everything in a basket and watched it and were
Yeah. I
diligent
mean, if
and
you
they
had
let their winners
Berkshire
run.
Hathaway way back in the beginning and
Yeah.
just held on to it, you'd be mega rich on not big
Just like he
investment.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like Warren
He
Buffett.
started off with a very modest amount of money back in the 60s and built this empire with other people's money and just held on to it. So that is part of what you need to think about too is if you do take money out, where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put it that's going to be a harder asset, a non-inflationary. They can't increase it. It's going to be completely scarce. You can't do that, which is one of Bitcoin's secret powers and what makes it so valuable, right? The other cons that you would
Well, where are you going to put
besides
it? You know, what I do is my RMD, I'll roll over as much as I can without impacting my taxes and put it like move it from it'll be sold out of my regular IRA and I'll move as much as I can into my Roth IRA, without impacting taxes.
see, and in
And
that
let it
case,
ride.
you can do that and you can buy Bitcoin. So you can take the
Yeah,
distribution,
right.
and that's a little bit thing. I think she's talking about taking profit and then what do you do? So this is a problem. What do you do? If you're going to do this exit strategy system, what do you do with the cash? If you're not going to live off of it, if you're going to live off of it, then it makes perfect sense, right? But if you're not going to live it and you're going to reinvest it, where are you going to put it that's going to do better than Bitcoin? That is a huge question that you need to answer. The other downfalls to this is you are going to pay higher taxes. You are going to pay higher fees because you're going to be making transactions on a more regular basis. It is a more complex system, right? It's not terribly complex, but it's more complex
Yeah.
than,
When you take
you know,
profits, you got to pay
yeah,
taxes on those profits.
it sets you up for some things you have to deal with on a more frequent basis. Whereas with buy and hold, you will eventually have to deal with these things too, just on a less frequent basis. Right. So yeah, this is a really complex question, but I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer on this. And we're running out of time. Otherwise, I'd go into
Oh,
a
okay.
couple of our other questions. And maybe we'll pick up next week if I don't do a walk and talk video this week on some of our other questions. But
Okay.
I think this is a good start for some of the differences between a buy and hold till you live off of it strategy or a buy and hold forever strategy versus a take profit strategy where you are still holding it for the long run, but at certain price increments that you've predetermined, that you've decided upon before it happens. I'm going to take money out at this time, this much money or this percent of it or whatever. I think it gives you some of the pros and cons
Right.
for both systems, some of what you might have to deal with. If anybody watching this thinks we've missed something, by all means, put it in the comments wherever you're watching this. Put it in the comments and say, what about this? Maybe you have some questions. Maybe you're thinking, well, you said this, so what would I do in that situation? Or what should I think about? Whatever questions you might have, please ask us. We love to answer them. We love to help out. I hope this helps you out, Nancy. I hope this helps you get some information to make a better decision for your situation. So, and if you have more questions, by all means, put them in the the First Step Bitcoin community as well. And anybody who's not a member already and you find what we're talking about interesting for you, or the purpose of First Step Bitcoin, I want to help a million people get started in Bitcoin. In the Bitcoin community, there's a saying, get off zero, get that first Bitcoin, going from zero Bitcoin to some amount of Bitcoin. And it's really the biggest step, because once you get off zero, once you get that first amount of Bitcoin and you start to see how it performs for you, it really can be extremely motivating to learn more about Bitcoin, to invest more about Bitcoin. And so in the First Step Bitcoin community, I want to teach people how to invest starting with Bitcoin. I want to help a million people get started in Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is going to blow up over the next years as governments, institutions, billionaires put money into Bitcoin, and that by the whatever available Bitcoin is out there, it's going to drive the price up. And I would rather see a billion people buy $500 worth of Bitcoin than see 500 billionaires
Exactly.
buy $1 billion each. I
Right.
want to see everyday people benefiting from this. I want to see people in the third world benefiting from this. So I want to help a million people, and anybody who wants to come and get their start at First Step Bitcoin, that's what the community is dedicated to, is helping you buy that first Bitcoin and then move to something I call HODL 520, where you set up your first Bitcoin only wallet. You buy $500 of Bitcoin and you moved it to that wallet that you've made safe and secure, and you commit to hold it for 20 years, right? And you start to see the growth. It's a psychological lesson. It's a mental lesson that you will learn as you see this amount of money grow and grow. And as you see it grow exponentially, it's going to go, you're going to start to ask questions about why it's doing. Some of you won't even ask questions. You'll just go, okay, I get it. I'm buying more Bitcoin. But that's what First Step Bitcoin is
No,
all
it
about, is
doesn't.
helping people get started in Bitcoin, get off zero, do it in a safe way. Buy it from good places, to buy Bitcoin, not the traditional Coinbase, Gemini, where they charge you ridiculous fees. Buy it from places like Swan and River and Strike or Cash App, where you're going to get really good fees. I'm going to check out some stuff about Robinhood, because I've actually been updated on them by some people that follow First Step Bitcoin, that they've changed how they do things. So I'm going to look into it. So now you can apparently you can send Bitcoin off of Robinhood to actual Bitcoin addresses, which means that's a good thing. That means there's real Bitcoin
Self
there.
custody.
When you buy it from a place like PayPal or Venmo and you can't send it anywhere, you have no guarantee that you actually own Bitcoin. They might be just holding it as an IOU for you. And then when you try to cash it out, they're going to go buy some Bitcoin and give it to you. And maybe they will be in a position somewhere down the road where they won't have the funds to do that, because the value of your Bitcoin that you
So
bought through them has grown too much, right? So that's part of what we're trying to do in First Step Bitcoin, is help you learn where to buy it, what to do with it, how to think about it, and how to put it on Bitcoin only wallets, why you would want to do that. And then as you learn those first basic steps, you're going to have more questions. There's other places where we can help you down the road too. And you can start talking about some of the things we talk about here, Dad, like IRAs and Roth IRAs and 1Ks and Roth, and how you do that. But First Step Bitcoin is just getting that first step, getting started in Bitcoin. And I want to help a million people get there. I want to see everyday people take advantage of this and be 5 years from now going, dude, this is awesome. This was great. I'm so glad I found out about this. So, anyways, come join us if you're not there. If you want to learn more about Bitcoin, if you want to help other people learn about Bitcoin, there's people asking questions there all the time that could use your insights too, if you're an experienced Bitcoiner. So, anyways, that's the pitch for First Step Bitcoin. And thanks for being on with me today, Dad. Good
okay.
conversation
Yeah.
as usual. So we'll see you next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, Dad. Take
Okay.
care. Love you.
Love you too, Aaron. Bye.